everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Sarah. I am a technically third semester nursing student, but kind of second. It's complicated. If you don't know, I'm in 2 nursing programs. If you want to watch that video, you can. I have it on my channel. It's like why I'm in 2 nursing programs, all about my CEP, whatever, if you're curious. So I'm in third semester, 3rd out of 6 for one of them, and then 2 out of 4 for the other, and they both end in May 2025. It's whatever. So I basically am a nursing student, and I make videos just like this one, documenting my journey here on YouTube. And for today's video, we're going to be talking about how I did really well in fundamentals. If you saw my last nursing school vlog, like the week in my life, not the study during break and announcement one, but the one before that, it left off with me taking my last fundamentals test, and I needed a 38 to pass the class, and I needed an 88. I think I needed maybe it was an 86. I don't remember. I think it was an 88. I needed an 88. Yeah, I needed an 88 to get an A, because in my school, the grade is so weird. They only do the whole letter or a plus. They don't do a minus. So an A, and the only one that they don't do that for is A. So the grading scale was A is 90 to 100. B plus is 85 to 90. B is 80 to 84. C plus is 75 to 80. And then C is 70 to 74. And then D, I don't even know. And F, I don't even know. I don't concern myself. I never failed class. So I don't know. I would not know about a D or an F. I've never gotten anything below like a B plus in college, which is crazy. But anyways, that I did not mean for that to come off as a brag. So I'm really sorry if it did. But I'm just saying. So if you're wondering, I ended up getting a B plus, not an A, because I ended up getting an 86 on my last exam, and I needed an 88 to get a 90 overall for the class. I ended the semester. This is still painful for me to talk about. I ended the semester with an 89.95. It was literally like 0.05 of a point away from a 90, and they did not round up my grade. I wasn't like expecting them to round it up. Like, they didn't like owe me anything, but like I asked one of my classmates, and they were like, do you think that they would round this up? And she was like, yeah, and they didn't. So I ended up getting a B plus in fundamentals, but I'm still really proud of myself because I did really well. I worked my little behind off in that class, and so I'm going to share what worked for me, how I did so well, not necessarily how I got an A. I mean, in my heart I got an A because I basically got a 90, but like my transcript says otherwise. So anyways, how I got an A in fundamentals. So it started with preparation, and I made a whole video about how I prepared for fundamentals. So if you want to watch that, go ahead. This is more for people who are already kind of in nursing school, who are like kind of wondering how to boost their grade, maybe trying to get some other perspectives on what worked for other people. So started preparing, but I made a whole video on that. So I'm gonna just breeze over it. Taught myself dosage calc. I taught myself nursing process using Picmonic. Love them. Taught myself ABGs. That was like the like, I don't know why I taught myself that. I think I watched like a Nurse Liz video, and she was like, don't read anything before you get to nursing school. And I was like, oh. But I think someone somewhere said learn ABGs, which is arterial blood gases, which ironically we don't learn until med-surg. So I was like so pissed when we were doing fluids and electrolytes and acid-base balance, and then they were like, oh, we're gonna skip acid-base balance, that's for med-surg. And I was like, the one thing I taught myself, but it's fine. I took A&P already. I took microbio, although microbio didn't really have anything to do with nursing school, but A&P definitely. Did really well in A&P. I got A's in that. I don't really think anything else really helped as far as prereqs go. For my school, if you don't know, we don't have any formal prerequisites. So I had people who are in the program with me that didn't even take anatomy yet. So my school didn't have any prereqs. It's a community college, so like they had suggested courses and courses that helped you get into nursing school, but no formal prereqs. So, you know, you would think they would, at least anatomy? No. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. So basically had a solid understanding of A&P, taught myself dosage calc, taught myself nursing process, that was a big one. Taught myself, my brain is not working, taught myself ABGs, I don't know if I said that already. And then got the books to prepare. I had the Davis's Drug Guide, I had the Fundamentals, Davis's Success Q&A. I've talked about it on my channel like so many times. It's on Amazon. I'll leave it linked down below. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get it. If you don't have it already, get it, please. I actually have it right with me. This physical assessment book, absolutely amazing. If you don't have some version of a physical assessment book, that saved my behind in lab. I don't know if I have it floating around somewhere. I do. Nursing Diagnosis Handbook. None of the books that I mentioned were on my required reading list. All we had was the Fundamentals Course Point Plus textbook and our ATI package. That was it. And they were like, fend for yourself. That was nuts. So the Davis's Drug Guide, those two books, the Fundamental Success Q&A book. I did get the Saunders book, but I didn't actually use it, so I'm not going to talk about it. Those books helped me so much. Just pulling things from different resources. So I started Fundamentals, kind of hitting the ground running. They gave us summer reading to do. It was a lot, but I got it done. And so it kind of put me like ahead for the semester because I basically had the readings done for the first 2 lectures before the semester even started. And so I was able to kind of not fall behind. So keeping up with the readings, I made sure to do the readings before lecture. All of the readings to the best of my ability. There were definitely some days where I was like absolutely freaking not. Like they wanted us to read like 100 something pages of our book in like 2 days. And I was like, are you out of your mind? So there were definitely some days that I skimped on it, but generally making sure to do the readings before lecture. Not just in general, but before lecture, because if you have the understanding, kind of like a wide general understanding in your head, the lecture is going to make sense. And then it's also the time to ask questions. So any questions that I like had while I was reading, I was able to be like, that makes no sense. And then ask it in lecture. And it was like on topic. So I wouldn't say we were learning about like oxygenation. I wouldn't be asking like a nutrition question from the day before his reading during the oxygenation lecture, because that's like really awkward for me. I'm really shy. So any questions I had about oxygenation, I would make sure to read ahead of time and then ask it during the oxygenation lecture. I just uploaded how I took notes for Fundamentals, or in nursing school in general. So if you want to learn how I took notes, because that also was a really good strategy for me, watch that video. I know I'm just throwing out all these videos at you, I'm sorry, but like I'm trying to not make this video super long, keeping it short, or as short as I can. So I took notes, and the way that I did it was I basically would highlight the textbook and then literally almost verbatim in most cases just write down what I highlighted. And because people ask, I had a lot of questions about like how to retain information in nursing school, and honestly most of the time I don't retain it. Most of it is critical thinking my way to the answer. And what I mean by this is, say it's not a select all but apply question. Say that it's a regular multiple choice and you had to read like safety and emergency preparedness, and you kind of skimmed that chapter that day, and on your test question you have like you see a client, or you walk in and you notice that a client is on the floor. What do? Do you write an incident report according to what the person that was in the room saw? Do you tell your supervisor? Do you assess their vital signs? Or do you scream and cry? And you may not have read the section of the textbook that tells you the answer. However, if you use the nursing process, most of the time you can guess the right answer even if you know nothing about the question. And so the answer, most of the time, if they give you a random scenario, is some version of assess. Most of the time. So the right answer would not be to file an incident report right away, because how would you file an incident report if you didn't really know what happened, right? You would have to like assess first. You would have to gather information before you intervene. So unless they give you enough information that you can confidently act on it, you don't want to like just assume certain things, right? Like this was something that happened. I saw this question. I think it was a Prep U question. It was like something where it almost made you jump to a conclusion and you had to stop yourself and be like, wait, is this, it was something about having like morphine, and that the patient told you that they don't want to take the morphine because it makes them sick. And so you assume that sick means vomit, right? Like sometimes opioids can cause people to be nauseous, right? And so my brain was like, give them an antiemetic if it's prescribed. Nope. The answer is, what do you mean by sick? Assess, right? The answer is sometimes assess, make sure you have all the information before intervening. And so that's why, at least preparing in my brain, knowing nursing process helped so much, because most of the prioritization questions are some sort of nursing process question or urgent versus non-urgent, and ordering the patients that way. The other thing that helped me with tests specifically, who is the closest to dying? Like, who is the closest of meeting Jesus? So, like, because sometimes you'll get these prioritization questions and you're going to be like, ooh, like, I don't know who I would help first. Who is the closest to dying? That is the person you help first. What I mean by that, you are in, I don't know, labor and delivery, right? I know nothing about labor and delivery. I have not taken that class yet, but I'm just using this as an example. You have a patient who is 10 centimeters dilated. You have a patient who is 80/50 is their blood pressure. You have a patient who has 8 out of 10 pain, or you have a patient who is hemorrhaging. Who do you help first? You might think, oh, I'd really want to just quickly address the person's pain, move on, right? Because no one likes to be in pain. Or you might be thinking, I have to get the person who's 80/50, right? But no. And it's not the person who's 10 centimeters dilated either. It's the person who's hemorrhaging. Why? Because they're actively dying. Like, you want to help them first. That's all I'm going to say about that. So you'll get some version of nursing process question, or I can't think of the word, urgent versus non-urgent. Most of the time you can critical think your way to the answer, even if you know nothing about it. Other than that, the select and apply has got me every time. I can't really help you with that. The only thing that I can say is try to break down the question into several true-false statements. So like, instead of looking at all the answers and being like, well, I feel like it's going to be 2 or 3 out of these. It could be 4, could be 2, could be, 3. You don't know. Just try to look at one question at a time and be like, okay, is this true? Does this fit the question? Yes or no? And force yourself to only look at that one and decide yes or no before moving on to the next one. And for me, I would add stuff in that wasn't true. And so if I initially went through and I was like, well, maybe it's this, and I click it, no. Also, sorry, this is more of a testing strategy, I guess, than anything else. Also, one of these things is not like the other. That's what my professor taught me. And so also, if you have no idea what the answer is, try to pick, if you can't narrow it down like at all, pick the one that's not like the other. So like, you might have, let's see, it really depends on what the question is, but sometimes it helps. Which of these are stroke symptoms? You have hypothyroidism, bradycardia, bradypnea, and hypertension. And which of these could be a stroke symptom? It's probably hypertension. If you had no idea, go with the one that is not like the other. That was the advice that I was given, and sometimes it worked. So I'm gonna kind of backtrack. So moving away from like actually sitting down at the test, I tended to try to aim to study like a week minimum before my test, like a full 7 days. I would aim for 2 weeks. Sometimes I'd be really busy, and so I'd only get to start studying 1 week before my test. Even if I had new material to cover, I did not care. I would start kind of working in chronological order up to where the test was. in a way, and I want to give a caveat to that. I would attempt to kind of figure out which topics would matter more than others. Like, for example, if I had a test, right? A unit test that covered evidence-based practice, infection control, the healthcare system, and communication, like therapy communication. Out of those topics, I feel like infection control is probably going to be on there more than evidence-based practice. Like evidence-based practice, I might have like 2 or 3 questions on my test. Infection control has like a lot of different things in there. And so I'd focus kind of more so on that. Going off of that, it depends on what resources you have access to, but my school has ATI, and if your school also has ATI, I use the Engage Fundamentals module thing, and I would find like a corresponding module and do the module. I would go through the whole thing, even if it was repetitive, like maybe like 3-ish days before the test. I would go through the module, like feel pretty confident. If, you know, I would use the practice quiz as a practice test because my unit tests were ATI based, like they were ATI tests. And so I'm like, the ATI questions are probably going to prepare me the most for an ATI test. And I used my grade that I got, because it's like a self-test, I used my grade as like a benchmark for how ready I was in that topic for the test. So if I took the practice quiz and I got like a 60, I'm like, okay, I definitely need a lot more work in this, especially if it was a topic that was more covered on the exam. Like it had like a greater concentration of questions. Like if infection control was 50% of the test questions, I'm going to focus on that and make sure I'm good on that before doing anything else. So if I got like a 90 on infection control, I'm like, great, I'm going to move on. I'm not going to try to be perfect. Obviously I'm going to review what I got wrong, but I'm not going to like stress out and try to get like a 95 or 100. My benchmark for studying for tests was above an 80. If I got above an 80, I knew I'd be okay. So if I got below an 80, then I would go into the like review module, like the book. I guess I have a book, some of you might not, but it's like the ebook of the review module. It's like, I mean, for 2024, 2023, it's like a green, like a lime green book from ATI. I would review that and then really try to understand what that was saying. And for the most part, I did really, really well on my tests. My lowest grade that I got was an 86. So I did really, really well studying like that. The first test, I kind of tried to write down everything that I could. That took a lot of time. So I don't know if you have time for that. And what I mean by that is like they would send us like general topics, I guess, like infection control. That's all they would say. It's like, infection control is going to be on your test. It's like, great. That includes standard transmission-based precautions, PPE, like so many things, like different modes of transmit, like so many things. And so I would go through each topic and just write down from memory everything that I know, and then use my resources, my textbook, my ATI, whatever, and just fill in and read anything that I missed. And that's a lot. That takes a lot of time. If you have the time for that, I would try that, but let's be honest, we're in nursing school, we don't have time for that. So I only did that for test 1, and I did not do that for the rest of the semester, but it still did fine. Something that really did help though was study groups. I absolutely adore the people that I had lab and clinical with for fundamentals. And so day before the test, every test, we would study at the library together, like as a group. Like, you know, it would be like 5 of us out of 8 would study together. And what really helped for, I think we learned that we needed to do this for test 3 and then also did it for test 4 because we had 4 tests that semester. They have like a giant whiteboard, and I basically, as a group, we would just pull from our resources and just I would write down on the whiteboard, the giant freaking whiteboard, just everything that we could find about that topic, and saying it out loud and hearing about it and discussing it and writing it and reading it on the whiteboard and on our resources just helped the information stick so much. And we were able to ask questions before the test, figure things out, even memorize things the day before the test. Like, it was crazy. that really helped. So if you have access to a group like that, I would use it. And sometimes you might need to be the person that initiates that. Obviously with everyone's schedule, sometimes it's hard to coordinate everybody, but I found it really helpful. Also, I used, like I mentioned earlier, the Fundamentals Success book. Like, I found those questions to be super helpful for preparing for the test because they were NCLEX style questions. They were similar to the ATI questions. Because sometimes the practice questions from the textbook are a little bit too straightforward and like a little bit too easy, require more memorization than critical thinking. And so for me, like, I did those too, and it was definitely good for retaining information and like just rote memorization. Not so great for thinking like a nurse, the way you need to think for ATI tests. So for me, that's just what worked. Something I will say is Picmonic helped me when I did need to memorize something that was really hard to memorize, that I felt like I just couldn't grasp from an index card. Let me tell you, I've talked about them before on my channel. I am an affiliate with them because I love them. Words cannot describe how thankful I am for Picmonic, especially when it came to the fluids and electrolytes chapter. Oh, it could have been so much worse if I didn't have Picmonic. So if you don't know, if you've never heard of it, Picmonic is basically like a study tool. I guess that's the only way I could describe it. And they do the most ridiculous stories, but you remember it. Like, and so the first time you look at it, you're gonna be like, be so effing for real right now. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's so stupid. It's almost so stupid it makes you angry, but you remember it. So I had to memorize the lab values for the electrolytes, and like I couldn't, because it was like 3.5 to 5 for this, and 8.2 to 10.5 for this, and 97 to 107 for that, and it was just like everything was all over the place, and it was just, there were so many things to memorize about it, and all like the manifestations and hypo and hyper. It was a mess. Picmonic helps me remember it. So if you need something like a memory trick, if you're looking for memory tricks, I would try Picmonic. I think it's 30% off. I could be wrong. It's either 20 or 30. I think it's 30. If you want to use a link in my description, go right ahead. It helps me buy my nursing school textbooks. But yeah, so there's that. That helped a lot with some things. Like, some things like are easy to memorize than others, but the things that are really hard, I would recommend that. Also for lab, I feel like I exhausted the lecture of fundamentals. For lab, they gave us, the way that they structured it, like a tickle in my throat. They kind of told us all these things to read, all these things to watch to prepare for that day's lab. And then like 3/4 of the lab was a second lecture. And then like the last half hour was skills practice. And so basically you were expected to know how to do the skill and just demonstrate for the group. I don't know how your specific lab is going to go. I did not necessarily find lab to be the most helpful with learning the skills. But what I basically did, I just did what they told me to do. So I don't really have a lot of advice because I didn't really do a lot in my fundamentals lab. I'm assuming MedSurg lab's gonna be different, but that's just how I did for fundamentals. And so most of my grade, 70% of my overall grade for the class was the lecture exam. So I focused the most on that. 10% of my grade was an ATI Proctor Nutrition exam. I got an 83 on that, which is a level 2. So I got 8% out of 10% of my grade. That I literally just studied from the ATI book. That was what I did. Let's see. And then that's 80%. The other 20% was like homework assignments, which obviously I do your homework assignments on time, turn them in on time, like I don't know what to tell you. And then our clinical assignment, which again, do on time, follow the rubric, like make it extremely clear that you're following the rubric, like give no room for interpretation of how clear you can be about that. Care plan, which I used my nursing diagnosis handbook for, and then skills checkoffs. That was my whole grade. And so I got perfect for my skills checkoffs, got perfect for my care plan, perfect for my clinical assignment. I got 2 points off my final grade just for not getting above an 84, 83 or something. I think I got like an 81. I needed an 83. Whatever. If I got an 83, I would have had an A in fundamentals, but it's fine. It's fine. And then the rest of it was my exams.
Hello, it is editing me. I did want to add in something about skills checkoffs, and I remembered it as I was editing. I didn't remember like as I was talking, but I remember it now. Filming yourself for your skills checkoff and watching yourself back if you don't have a partner to do it for you. Also, my school had like kind of like an open lab where you can practice your skills and have like a faculty member give you like pointers, supervise you, you with your classmates working together. That also really helped. I can't believe I didn't mention that, but I basically did a skills practice at least twice a month, especially when I had like a skills checkoff to do. I would basically take like an extra hour, closer to when the skills checkoff was, just to make sure that I was good. And then practicing at home, obviously, making sure I knew all the steps, making sure I could explain everything that I'm doing as I'm doing it. Not just doing it, right? But like saying, okay, I'm taking the blood pressure, I'm feeling the radial pulse, like to get an estimate systolic, whatever. Yeah, practicing on your own, filming yourself, and like almost grading yourself. Because like my school, they gave us a rubric for how we were going to be graded for the skills checkoff. So like I filmed myself and I'd watch myself back using and against my rubric, and I would like grade myself pass fail. And then I think I actually filmed practicing injections and I posted that in a vlog. So that was cool. But yeah, that.
And so that's pretty much how my grade broke down. For clinical though, most of it was just throwing yourself into it. And because you definitely have the option to kind of be like, oh, I don't want to take that call light. But you just do, I walk in there and I'm like, hello, do you need anything? Or like, I saw your call light going off. What can I help you with or something? And most of the time it was, can you change me? And I'm like, yes, I absolutely can. Or it was something really simple, like, I'm getting discharged today. Can you just help me pack up my things? Absolutely. Or my lips are really dry. Can you do something about that? Yes. Or, I'm really nauseous. And this was something that like, I don't know if I'm technically like allowed to do, but like, I hope that I was. So just a little story, I guess. So I, was in clinical and I had this patient who was nauseous and they already took their antiemetic and they were not due for another one for quite a while, but they were really nauseous and they were like, you need to get me a bag or a bin or something. And I was like, I will most certainly get you a bag. However, have you ever tried sniffing an alcohol wipe? And the patient was like, no. And I was like, it works. I don't know how or why, but if you need it in a pinch, and you can't take your antiemetic yet, try it. And so I gave it to them and they were like, how does this work? And I'm like, you're welcome. So hopefully I was allowed to do that. I think so. But yeah. So just honestly just throwing yourself in there and just trying your best. Also with lab and with clinical, this book helped so much because my clinical instructor was assessment, do assessment on every single patient. And sometimes I didn't really know how to do that. Like they didn't really, we did it in lab, but it was very, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was very like, very cookie cutter, and not every patient needs a cookie cutter assessment. I mean, bringing my drug guide to clinical because these patients would be on meds and I would not know what they were, what they did. And I had to give them stuff and I was like, I don't even know. Like this is the first time I'm even like seeing the name of this medication. I don't even know what it does. Like just even looking at it, I couldn't even tell you. Some things I would be able to tell, like This is so dumb. I knew potassium. I knew potassium chloride. I knew a K-Chlor packet. I knew that. But like other than that, nope. My camera said that I was talking too long and it automatically stopped. So I'm gonna take that as my sign to stop talking because I probably talked your ear off. But if you if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see my face again, consider subscribing and I'll see you next time. Bye.